Hi, and welcome. In this final section of our uh, of the material in this week, what we want to do is we want to look at a particular sequential circuit, and we want to analyze it. Okay. In the next week, what we'll try to do is we'll try to design sequential circuits. But for this week, let's limit ourselves to analyzing the circuit and take a look at this circuit. It looks very complicated, doesn't it? Here's a D flip flop, and this is also a D flip flop. And these two D flip flops, basically, in one sense, the outputs of these D flip flops can be thought of as representing a state. So if this Q here, the output here is 1 and this Q here is 0, that's kind of a state. And depending on that state and depending on the input that you give, you can have various outputs here. And depending on the state and the input, you can move to another state. So the output of this D flip flop and this D flip flop would change in certain ways so that we get a different state and therefore a different output here. Okay, so let's try to give names to each of these states so that we can understand what is happening here. So let's say uh, I call this state here as let me select this, and okay, that's fine. So let's okay, and let's call this as uh, let's say x. Okay, so that's one state that we have. You can have another state by trying to go here, and let's pull this wire here a little to the left. How do I do that? Okay, and let's rename this state as y. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is x and y determine the state in which the circuit is operating. And depending on what the values of x are, so for example, if this x has a certain value, this the output of this gate is going to be influenced by these x and y. This is connected to y, right? And uh, that combination is going to be combined with the input here, and let's just call the input A because that's easier name to say. Okay, so there's our input A, and so a combination of X and Y and A are going to change the state of this flip-flop. And similarly, a combination of X or X bar, whatever it is, X bar and A is going to change the state of this flip-flop. So the present state and the input here, whatever A, determines the next state of this circuit, and the state, whatever the state is, so here y bar and A determine the output of your circuit. So let's call our output, let's say something like B or something. Okay, so let's say this is B. Is that all right? So in what we'll do in the next video is we'll try to figure out how to think about and how to analyze the circuit, how to draw a truth table for this circuit.